All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a restreaming due to some technical difficulties of tonight's show, which is Disclaimers by Dave and Ed Johnston. It is August 21st, 2017, so I will get this show going. We will restream it, and when it's done, I thank you for your time.
Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. He says, he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester. And it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion, to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States. Individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose. And that's love for country. And to the Republic. Republic. A state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people. And it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all. For all. Which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance. Under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Thank you for joining us. You're listening to The Disclaimers by Davidlee Buess and Edward Johnston. Today is Monday, August 21st, 2017, and it is 5:04 Pacific Standard Time, PM. Ed, take it away.
Thank you. We would like to thank you all for joining us. Before we get into tonight's major conversation, and it's over taxes. This is the one thing that we're lied to, and people lie to their children, and we've been lied to by our parents, and we were told that we had to do these things. And when you start getting older, you start realizing how much all the structure around you is a fraud, lie, and a joke. And we're all living this. I mean, it really comes down to it. And it is a lie, fraud, and joke. I mean, we get taught to believe one thing, and then when you start getting older, you start realizing, once you start educating yourself, you're realizing, for an example, like the tooth fairy was a lie. Christmas, another lie. Halloween, another lie. Easter, another lie. Parents lie. We get programmed to lie, all right? Our parents program us to lie. Our parents programmed us to lie. And then we wonder why we have so many problems in our country and what's going on in our own home, because kids today even lie to their parents. The parents lie to their children, and then they get upset, and everybody says, well, and then they get upset because you're supposed to be taught to be honest, and you're not supposed to lie. You're supposed to be honorable. Well, how can anybody be honorable when everybody lies? They lie about Christmas. They lie about Easter. They lie about Halloween. They lie about taxes. They lie about driver's license. They lie about income taxes. They lie about property taxes. Every tax that is on the record is lied about, okay, except by the IRS code. The IRS code, actually, when you read the IRS code, it only says that all elected and public employees under the March 9th, 1933 Bankruptcy Act are liable. All registered church members and voters are liable. Because when you're a registered church member and a registered voter, you are agreeing that you are part of a democratic democracy society to take claim and liability for the Vatican, the church's debts. So when you pay your taxes, it goes to the churches. It doesn't go to what people lie to you about. It doesn't go for expenditures. I got 30 years in this stuff, watched it. Dave's got just as many years, or we've got 30, 35 years in this. And when you step out of the movie and you start watching the production, it's amazing how it starts coming together. But before I dive off into this, because I got some stuff I want to read here, I want to get into one thing that's going on in Oregon. Oregon just had a Nazism bill, terrorism bill passed, so cops could come in and shoot you on sight. This is not a joke, folks. This is a start. It's going to be in the next 47 states, I mean. So they're giving legal rights for you to be murdered, and everybody's going, oh, it's got to be Trump. Well, I get so tired of dumbasses. It's a Democratic Party, and the Republicans are involved in it, but read and pay attention to the stories of what the facts are. In Oregon, Kate Brown, a Democratic treason traitor, passed a bill that says cops can murder you in your home if you have a shell, even an empty shell in your home. If they break in and find an empty shell, they can murder you. This is a fact. This is reality. It's no different than Adolf Hitler. And I mean, this is real. We're living it right now today in the state of Oregon. Okay? I mean, and I just went off on a group of people this morning because they're talking about, the poor children and how this is such a good bill and it's going to save people's lives. Well, like I said in the beginning, if you're stupid and you wrongfully educated yourself and your children, okay, blame yourself. If your kids commit suicide, it's your fault. Don't blame the world because you raised your kid. All right? And if you didn't raise your kid and the state raised it, then you have to get off your lazy damn ass, educate yourself, and file the criminal charges on the perpetrators. I'm dealing with that with a few cases right now myself, and people go, well, why? I had an email this morning I read going, well, what does it matter if I file on the judges or attorneys? What does it matter if I file on do this? So what the hell is the matter? Why am I writing things for you? Okay, if you're not willing to stand up for your children, don't waste my life and my time. It's my life, not your life. I'm not here for compassion and kindness. My children are dead, so don't ask me to have compassion. Now, I don't mind helping people who are willing to stand up for their bloodline. But when I watch this ridiculous people that are so ignorant and cocky telling me, oh, what does it matter if I have to file this paperwork? Well, it matters because if Dave or I or any other man or woman that you've asked for help and you got criminal cases and there are things that need to be filed on judges and attorneys and public servants and elected officials. Remember, these are all public servants. They're not gods. The Pope ain't a god. The Vatican ain't a god. Your Christianity book ain't a god. Because if it was a god, we wouldn't have the problems we're living today. We're living in a living hell today. So if there was a god, okay, well, we wouldn't be living the way we are today. So don't give me the God in the Bible had to create good and evil. No, come on, let's be realistic. Are we that ignorant? Until the natives of this country were invaded by terrorists that came from other countries, there was hardly any wars. We get taught about all these wars, but most of the Indians, they didn't have wars amongst themselves. They stayed in their territory. They didn't cross the line because they knew if they did, it would create a war, and otherwise they had respect and honor. So, and this gun deal is that, it was mentioned to Dave earlier, we got to put something together on this for treason. It's up to us, you the people, to stand up and quit whining like little girls and boys. I'm watching it on the internet since yesterday, and it was quite interesting watching all these people whining because, the kid committed suicide because of this. Let me tell you something. My brother-in-law, the start of Measure 11 in the state of Oregon, the J. Smith accidental shooting or direct murder. Yeah, that was my brother-in-law, the boy that was shoved in the back of a garage for a week. Literally. That body was in the back of a garage with a couch over him and some other stuff piled up on his dead body until the kid broke down to the principal at school and told him where Jay was at. I lived this, folks, so don't give me any heartache and bullshit about mind control and guns and all this BS. I lived with friends of mine who have been shot and killed, and I've been through this in life. But it's time for people to start growing up and being adults instead of having emotions run their thinking. Okay, either you're intelligent or you're not. And for those who are not intelligent, we, the intelligence, are supposed to be responsible enough not to rape, rob, and steal from the stupid. And I'm using that term because, until we came up with all these fancy words in the last 20 years, because people say, oh, you have to use these fancy words, that could be a racism word. Racism is religion. Look it up. It's not color. But people don't look at the real truth. And that's the frustration we do live today. Realistically, we do live on all this crap today. So you talk about hell, you're living in it. Okay, your kids are being kidnapped and stolen, held for ransom. And this is part of taxes, where we're going to be getting into taxes. Because your kids are a tax structure for Social Security. Okay, Social Security originally is not a tax, it is not a government agency. Social Security was the old structure for pirateering, and that's the British government. If anybody knows the true history of pirates, came from the British government, it started from the British government. The Spanish started doing that with Columbus, and then it went up the British government, and that was the main part of the British government in the late 1600s, with Columbus, too, in 17 and 1800s. It's all in the real history books. But the Democrats have been rewriting history, folks. This is the point. All these Democrats, they rewrite history. They like to lie to their children. The kids turn 18. Oh, we got to throw them on the street. We can't educate them correctly. It's not our fault. It's not our responsibility. Yes, it is your fault. It is your fault that you and your children are the way they are because you raised them. So this is the one point that people have got to come to common sense and common reality. Okay, and I know sometimes we don't wake up until the courts get into our face, and all of a sudden when those things happen, we start going, oh, shit. Now, those things are forgivable. Those things are things that we need to look at. Okay, those are the things we need to attack. But if your kid is out there doing drugs and everybody, who gives a shit when it comes to that? Because drugs are legal. Drugs are lawful. Drugs is for personal medication. Remember, until basically after the Civil War in the 1930s, nobody ever gave a darn about drugs or alcohol. When it really come down to it, it was all medicinal use. People didn't overdose. They didn't go out and do stupid things. Because they knew they did stupid things that the Great Spirit would take them. Hey, that's common sense. And then today everybody goes in these things that, we got to blame this man. We got to blame this woman. It's like, no, you don't blame, and especially with the guns, you can't blame an inanimate object. And for those people who got to blame inanimate objects, that even proves how much of a child you really are. Yeah, I mean, really a child. Now, we do know that, jump off here, and I'll come back here, not to skip points, but we do know that we've been, Dave and I got other people that now are doing talk shows, and there's been 6 talk shows now. Two new ones started, but 4 have changed their talk shows to our Monday nights now, which I find interesting. And Guerrilla Radio is starting a new talk show tonight with this other guy that I've talked to, been on their show, but they're starting a new talk show to go against ours, trying to raise their funding mechanisms. So it is interesting because we know that people do listen to us. We know that people do pay attention, and they are getting the message, and it is going out. So, those are the things that we have to deal with, that we do live with. And like I said, it's interesting because people are all taught about cutthroat society. It's all about me, 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 me. And they don't, and I get tired when people say, I did all this for my children, but see, if you educate your children, if you don't spoil them, and if you educate them with common sense, hey, they turn out pretty good. At least I believe I did. So, I mean, those are things that we have to look about life, of the real points of life. So, and I know I'm saying that and I keep waiting to see the counter go up. I can't remember that because I've got people that said, come on, Ed, quit doing that, and I have to be blunt with that one on myself. But, again, because of the circumstances we are in this country today, all right, we've got so many families that are confused because, the TV set, the mind control, the TV, radio, the circumstances around us, all that has a lot of play into what's going on around us in real life. And this is the point that in real life is what we have to look at. In real life is what we're living. You are living in real life. And if you don't comprehend what's going on about you and your grandchildren, it's like I always listen to grandparents. It's my turn to spoil my kids, so I get back at them for what they did to me when I was a kid. When they were kids, I mean. How can you go after your kids and turn your grandkids against them because of what you raised your child about? So it depends on how childish people really are. I mean, that's the frustration we live with that, and this is what's continuing on today. And this is the point that goes on with taxes, like I was saying in the beginning. People like the tooth fairy, Christmas. We know there's no Santa Claus. We know that there's no Easter. We know Halloween. And all these, technically, if you really look them up and if you actually read the Bible, they're satanic holidays. But people interpret the Bible what they want to hear or what they want to think. That's like taxes. People interpret what they want to think. They interpret and they tell people what they want for personal and financial gain. And this whole point is not for personal and financial gain. All right, this country is like, I got a video I've been putting out with the native deal they put out. We didn't have problems until this country was invaded by foreigners, as I call foreign and domestic terrorists. And that's what we have right now, called the Oregon State House and Senate. Every senator and House of Representatives in each 48 states. I don't say 50 because 50 states, there is no 50 states because 50 states are part of the corporation. They are not part of the original contract of the 1841 contract we have with the Vatican and the British government. And that is the point where They started trying to implicate taxes, but that didn't go through. And that's the one point I want to really hit here so you comprehend. When you pay your income taxes, when you pay your federal and state income taxes, when you pay your property taxes, all those income taxes go to the Vatican and the British government. And the British government debt, when you hear the national debt, and that's where people go, oh, I'm a national. National is the British. The national is not American. That's the point that people don't read and look up the real point of what national means. That's why in March 9th, 1933, FDR clearly stated in Executive Order 2040, all nationals, all citizens were enemy to this country under the the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917. And that's where people don't get it. You know, we are allowing these things to happen. We are teaching our children that it is okay to lie, which I believe that they should lie to elected and public servants or not tell the truth or not even talk to them. Because that violates the First, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, and Ninth Amendment. This is where people don't get it. People will know the Bible better than they know the Constitution. They have no knowledge of what the Constitution truly says. They go by what they assume. And so anyhow, I want to get in. I'm going to start reading some stuff here on the Bankruptcy Act. So first off, let me get this to you. The Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals has clearly stated that paying taxes comes down to a federal crime if you are 5 or more generations. It violates your Fifth Amendment Act if you're lawful. And if you're legal, okay, a legal citizen, you have to wait till your 5th generation. But so long as that you are paying those taxes, this is where people don't comprehend this point. So long as elected and public service, registered voters, registered church members, and immigration pay their taxes, they don't have an issue. Now, you can, as a citizen, probably file on it because, as the Supreme Court says, that there is no tax on labor. But, see, that goes to lawful Americans because, see, when you're an immigrant, labor is what you came here for, our freedom, and so that way you are going off of our structure for our families, our bloodline, for your freedom. So until you become 5th generation, this is by the Supreme Court, folks. This is by Congress that, you know, today they lie. They've been changing records for the last 20 years. Been really bad with the last part, started really changing, adulterating the records with Clintons. Then it went to the Bushes, because the Bushes, remember, they support Nazism. They are the Nazi party. Their entire family is. That's where their oil companies and everything funded the British war with the Vatican. That's why if you ever see the robes of any priest or mosque or anybody in any religion, they all have the Nazi symbols on their robes and their hats and stuff. They all got the Nazi symbols. So that's the point that you have to wake up and comprehend the truth here. You know, I love it because I get on the internet here because we're recalling Kate Brown up here, and I got criminal charges. I got other ones I got to finish after I get this traveling case written up for another Native American. You know, and this is the point. If we don't start standing up together, there is no future. You know, one of the military Marines just came out and said that they were ready to execute Americans. Yes, that's true. They're told under orders to execute. There's been several Marines that came out on YouTube says no, they will not do this. A couple of them actually even showed orders that were written and put up, and that was even done by Obama that they put up on the internet. So this is real. This is real what's going on. This is not imaginary that people think it is. It is not imaginary. And if you do go in to type up or the messages that we put out, Exhibit 05051 from the former IRS Commissioner Steve Miller You could have that exhibit placed in any tax court because it says all income taxes are voluntary. I'll repeat that. This is the IRS Commissioner Steve Miller, former IRS Commissioner. Exhibit 05051. And you can even put it up on the YouTube video, watch the Senate and House and senators say it live on the structure. And then there's another video you can type in, $9 trillion missing from the Federal Reserve. And I got another one that they've been asking for that we just got, I haven't posted that, I got to find that again. They've been asking where the $9 trillion is, and actually it came up where it's $39 trillion that the IRS cannot identify. That just happened a couple months ago on their Capitol. And they can't identify where the money is, and the IRS, the bank director for the Fed says, you can't ask those questions to the chair of the committee, says you can't ask those questions because the IRS has no obligation to answer these questions to you. You know, and that's where I'll let Dave bring in Long versus the case on the 16th Amendment, you know. But also, too, what I do pass out, if you go out, the 16th Amendment was never ratified. That was decided June 13th, 1967 by Congress, Dwight versus Turner. 1968 made it very clear, and those are on pages 15,641 through 15,646. And these are congressional records I'm reading off to you. I'm reading you the law. Statute, codes, and administrative rules are not law. When the House and Senate passes a bill at the Oregon State House, the Nevada House, New Mexico House, Ohio House, Illinois House, whatever state you live in, when they pass what they call a bill, that's a bill to bill you. That's administrative code. That is not law. The only law is the Constitution of the 48 states. And that's where people got to really comprehend this reality. It's not law what they tell you. We have rights, not privileges. And the Fifth Amendment came out with the Supreme Court that came out and said that if you are paying taxes, it violates your Fifth Amendment rights. So you have rights, folks. Learn what a right is compared to a privilege. As soon as you start putting that together and you start educating the children, there won't be half the problems we got going on today. I want to bring up to you 42408 Section A8. Okay, that means disclosing, and this is the point that people lie to you on the internet about Social Security. Social Security is a private contract for lawful bloodline Americans. That was put in place by FDR. That was part of the barter agreements that they did for the Executive Order 2040. Remember, they have to argue and barter this stuff out and do this to make contracts. And this is the point with the contract. And this is the point where it says that if you give your Social Security number out, you can go to jail. Your Social Security is for you and you only. Social Security is not a government contract. It is a private agency. Okay, that's the major point. It is a private agency that we have, we the lawful Americans. And that started, and that came back from the Piracy Act, because if you lost a limb or a finger or something like that, you got an extra part of the bounty or booty for your retirement for losing that for those wars and fighting. And people don't get it. They don't, so that's why me and Dave, we like bringing the education out to you on these points of view, because if you don't get educated and we don't stop, misinforming the people around us and our children, this is the point that we're living in what I call hell today. DHS is kidnapping kids so that way they go after the Social Security money. I've got videotapes that I put up on that. We'll be putting that up on the site, too, where you can watch Congress starting to admit it, that they're stealing this money, because if they didn't have the money, they couldn't guarantee the jobs. Well, I would say 60% of the jobs today in government we do not need, period. Attorneys don't work for we the people. They work for the British Registrar to the King and Queen of England. That's even proven in Congress. You know, so these are the things that we have to protect the bloodline, and it's your bloodline. And if you love your kids, start doing this. I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to turn the floor over to Dave. Let me find this one. I want people to comprehend this reality, because this is the point that people do not comprehend what's going on, and this is from the Bankruptcy Act. As soon as I find it here, I just had it here a minute ago. Let me go back a couple more here. But, I mean, this is the point. The March 1933 Bankruptcy Act was staged. And it was staged because congressmen, and that was part of the Bush family way back then. This was right about the time that Preston Bush was convicted of right after he was convicted of treason. Congressional Record, House, December 13, 1932. Proof that the 1933 Bankruptcy Act was staged by international bankers met in Bessel. Were Congress Record, House, that was determined on that date too, December 13, 1932. Were such agreements entitled were surrounding rights of the United States. Remember, the United States is incorporated. See, there's a difference of United States Union and United States Incorporation. There's a separation of the two, basically what's lawful and legal. And there's two of that structure, and that's the 1871 contract that we have with the British government too, that gave them public employment, and I've got that too. As whereas the agreement was so made before being disclosed. Submitted to Congress for ratification. Congress never ratified this. That's like the 1916 or the 16th Amendment to the Constitution was never, ever ratified. This was a decision that came through the London Conference of the banks. Okay, like I said, this is all British government that is doing the banking of international segments. Albert H. Wiggin appeared, and his statement was dealing with the banks that we ought to have. United States Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve was a structure that came from England. Anything that says federal is British government. And you can claim that it's the Hatfields McCoys, Rothschilds, Chase Manhattan. I had to use Hatfield McCoys because of the war. They always fight in the family. But this is what the banks do, too. They're fighting amongst themselves to see who gets the free living off of you. And this is the point that when we get to these points of comprehending these things, that's why when it comes to allegedly paying taxes, that goes to the Vatican through the British government, or the British government to the Vatican in payment. And so taxes are voluntary. So when you see a W-4 form, it says exempt on it. Check exempt. I'm not giving anybody any advice. I just publicly saying, just check exempt. I don't check anything. I don't admit to anything, because when you start admitting to things on paperwork like your birthday, your Social Security number, the day you farted on Tuesday, that violates your 1st, 4th, 5th, 7th, and 13th Amendment. 13th, dealing with title and nobility. And that's the other thing. We don't have title and nobility in this country. And that's one thing that we'll get to that on another talk show. But dealing with the taxes, this is one thing that people don't realize, that when you're paying and using de facto notes on property, they're trying to come out now and trying to say you don't own the land, which actually you do, because you're using their material to claim your land, so they have no authority trying to say that you paid off land or something with their debt note, because you're using their debt note because they took gold and silver in a way, our honest way of paying the structure that was provided for us, after this country was invaded by foreign immigrants terrorizing our country that came up with all this stuff. So, Dave, are you here yet?
Yeah, I'm here, Ed.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you go on, because you guys have had some interesting things opened up for you guys So I want you to bring that in, and then get into a couple more of these other things. But like I said, people, you got to start realizing on these things when you're paying even property taxes. I'm working that on the state of Oregon right now. It's voluntary. We've proven it. I've got the laws that says it. In the state of Oregon, I even had senators and House of Representatives in public meetings admit that property taxes are voluntary as well. And so when taxes are paid, it goes to England, to the Vatican. When you go, that's the other point before I turn it over. 1099 form, ID 1099 form. If you pay a water, electricity, phone bill, especially if you pay any fines or anything, you pay $2 for copies in the court system or $2 for something in the city system. Turn in a 1099 form on your elected and public officials. If we start doing that collectively, the IRS has no choice to investigate. And I'm personally aware of 5 city corporations that were actually shut down because they embezzled money and they couldn't prove on the 1099 form where the money went to. So, anyway, I'm going to turn it over to you, Dave.
All right, Ed, thank you. That's a very good intro into the show, by the way. What I find it interesting is that we are operating in fraud in this country as far as the Internal Revenue Service. They were ruled unconstitutional in U.S. versus Constantine in 1935. So how can you have an unconstitutional entity operating within a union state? Now remember, the union states are of the people, not of the corporation and not of the British government. So comprehend the fact that, number one, you cannot have an unconstitutional entity running amok in the Union States. This is why I filed recently with the FBI a criminal complaint against the IRS as unregistered foreign agents. They are a division of the IMF, who is a division of the United Nations. And the United Nations is not my government now, nor ever will be. I have a constitutional government, and that is a republic. Say the Pledge of Allegiance if you don't believe it. So if you have a republic, and constitutionally every state is guaranteed a republican form of government, not a democracy. Anybody who would tell you that you have a democracy, you want to immediately file treason charges against those incompetent asses and put them in jail where they belong. And you've got to file against your congressmen, senators, governors, the whole damn lot of them. Jay Sidlow of the American Civil Liberties Union just recently called me and said, this democracy, I hung up on him.
Mm-hmm.
Refused to put up with his crap because I knew he was lying. And they want me to support that organization? No, thank you. You want to be a democracy, then you pack your bags and get your butt back to England where you belong. Income taxes were ruled unconstitutional in 1895. For those of you who are not aware of it, go to Tax Fraud in America on Facebook. That is my webpage. And I have several items in there, 60 rulings of the United States Supreme Court that are not found within the IRS code, which is intentional fraud. Because have the IRS actually obeyed the law, which includes rulings of the Supreme Court, they would not be telling people they owe taxes. They would not be sending out 1040 forms. They would not be doing anything to the American people. Because if they read 6331A, which is the authority of the Secretary, they would find that individuals are not mentioned. So there's a ruling of the Supreme Court also that very plainly states that Congress, by legislation, cannot define income since it cannot alter the Constitution from which it derives its power to legislate, and within whose authority alone that legislative power exists. Maybe a little bit misquoted, but you got the message. So here you have it. If Congress, our legislative body, cannot define income, why are we paying individual income taxes? You see the intentional fraud by not having something in the code that pertains to income. The second thing is that the IRS Form 1040 was ruled without standing in law in a U.S. District Court in Grand Rapids, Michigan in 2005, U.S. versus Lear. So if you go into that court case, 2005, I think it was July. July 7th, if memory serves. I apologize for the cough. Well, they haven't quite figured out where this is coming from. But anyway, the George Lear case very plainly stated in 2005 that the 1040 form was without standing in law. So how can the IRS counterfeit your debt on the 1040 form and then claim you owe it, and then lien your houses up and everything else because of it? That's exactly what these bastards are doing, and I'm going to call them bastards. We recently called the IRS office, and the woman said, "You can't talk to me." I said, "I'll talk to you any goddamn way I want to. You're not a government agency. I don't have to kiss your butt." She hung up, of course, which I figured she would. But let's comprehend the fact that this is an unregistered foreign agent committing fraud all over the United States, and our court systems are too stupid to put an end to it. Even though we have filed charges against the IRS, I have an arrest warrant out for all IRS agents in the United States through the Hancock County Sheriff's Office, citizen's arrest, signed by 3 notaries, which equal a judge. And our Hancock County Sheriff still refuses to arrest the IRS agent. There's no statute of limitation on an arrest warrant. We just heard that on the news through the United States, the Ohio Supreme Court last night. There's no statute of limitation on an open arrest warrant. So let's put it to the Hancock County authorities to do your damn job. Because I, for one, am getting sick and tired of their crap. Well, now I want to break for a second here, and I want to talk about something that happened to me this week. Just getting out of the hospital and with the stroke and all. And by the way, I want to thank all of you who had a kind word to say to me. It meant a lot. But what we have is I received a call from supposedly Microsoft, and some of you may be getting these. I don't know if you are or not. But it was, they wanted me to go to a website so they could give me back some $400+ in overcharges. upon going to the website, they wiped out my hard drive on my computer. So I'm going to tell you people right now, if you get a call from Microsoft and it is from a foreign country, hang up on them. They claim they're from Microsoft Corporation, India, or wherever. So if you get any kind of call from those people and they tell you that they want to refund you money, what they're trying to do is get you to set up an online banking service with your bank account so they can walk in and steal your money. So I'm giving you a heads up. They didn't get my account because we refused to give them any information relating to it. So, but be aware, they're doing this right now to rob you blind and wipe your computer clean of any information you have on it, because they will wipe out your hard drive. So you get anything from an unlisted name and number, I'm going to tell you right now, do not ever answer it. I made the mistake, and I'm passing on the word. These people are criminal in their activity, and that's exactly what they're doing. So now I have to either buy a new hard drive or something and then reinstall all my programs. And trust me, I will come after these people for inland piracy, obstruction of justice, tampering with evidence, and a few other things, because my computer was full of information like that. This wasn't just an accident. This was intentionally planned when I filed against the IRS. I find it interesting, it was only a couple of days after I filed it that I got hit. So they're either working for the IMF or they're working for the IRS or both, or they're working for the UN or the Pope, the Vatican, the British government. I don't work for the British government. I don't kiss their butt. And I refuse to kiss their butt. That's why we have a republic constitutionally established. What does that say? This Constitution and treaties written are the supreme law of the land. So you explain to me why Mr. Roosevelt, back in 1933, Bankruptcy Act, suspended the Constitution before he turned all law and statute over to international law and had it copywritten. Had Mr. Roosevelt included the Constitution in that, which is the supreme law of the land and was the supreme law of the land at that time, worked with international bankers to swindle the American people in the world, to form the Federal Reserve System, the biggest counterfeiting ring ever going. I have no love for Roosevelt and his gang of thieves called Congress. And their corporation. Who are the three people that formed this supposed corporation? United States of America, DBA, a federal corporation. 28 U.S.C. at 3002 definition 15, United States means a federal corporation. Where's the constitutional amendment for that? That's high treason. Did not Roosevelt and the rest of Congress take an oath to preserve and protect the Constitution? I believe that's part of the Constitution from the beginning.
Lawyers and attorneys.
Lawyers, attorneys, a whole bunch of them. Judges. Honey? Oh, wait. Every one of these individuals are as guilty as sin when it comes to lying, cheating, and stealing about information pertaining to the Constitution. They need to be put behind bars arrested and criminally charged with treason against their oath of office. Misprison's a felony. We cannot have and we cannot continue to allow the misrepresentation that we have in our government, our elected and public servants. We cannot allow this. We the people, from the beginning, have been and are to this day the first branch of this government. We the people. And, I'm sorry. There's just so much crap I'm going to put up with. You cannot commit treason against yourself. We the people have always been the government. Will always remain to be the government constitutionally established. So it's high time we put an end to the congressional and the presidency, the president corporation who seems to think he is the head honcho of this company or this country. It has to come to a stop. But getting back to tax issue, it's like Ed said, the bankruptcy of 1933 was a staged event by the international bankers. There is no law, never has been a law that requires you to pay an income tax. It's fraud by trickery, intentional fraud, inland piracy, mail fraud, extortion by mail, and misuse of your Social Security number, identity theft, personage. The corporation does not have the right to make you a commodity. That's slavery. So if you do not understand this, you do not comprehend this, you better start doing your homework, and you better go back into, I'm going to say, start with about around 1890 and start reading the congressional record and the rulings of the Supreme Court of the United States. You want to know where the fraud starts, you want to know where the crooked judges, lawyers, and attorneys, read In of Court, Black's Law Dictionary, page 805. It'll tell you what they are. They're barristers, members of the BAR, British Accreditation Registry. They're unregistered foreign agents, every one of them. They have no authority over you in court.
Only them.
Only themselves, their fellow crooks.
Corporation.
The de facto corporation. The courts themselves are for pseudo-corporate courts, meaning that their corporations are traded for profit on Dun & Bradstreet, Stock Exchange. They sell your name for profit. Any court case gets sold, traded on Dun & Bradstreet, Wall Street for profit. They sell it short and then buy it to make money.
They sell your name.
Then they sell your name. And there's where your identity theft comes in.
Sell your name on the goddamn mortgage.
They sell your name on the mortgage? The whole 9 yards. Property doesn't belong to you. If they think you have an interest in it, they'll put a mortgage on it. Mm-hmm. And it's done by attorneys, backed by lawyers and judges. These judges in the United States are as crooked as they get. I have no love for any of them. As far as I'm concerned, if they lined them all up, took them out, shot them would be too good for them. because they're criminal in their activity. They'll dismiss your case on a 12B6 failure to state a claim when the claim is very plainly written. I have no love for any of them. And I don't care who knows it.
I need to ask, do you guys know what's the difference between...
I agree with you there.
Do they know the difference between lawful and legal? Do they know the difference between constitutional law, criminal law? Why is it that you as a citizen can't take somebody into criminal court?
Wait a minute, don't use the word citizen, because you can't, because you're a British government employee at that point.
Well, that's what they're trying to make. See, that's my point, Ed.
Well, I know that's the point, but it's like, you know, that's what you are if you are a citizen or a national.
There are individual citizens.
And you know what I mean by that, because it even says that in Executive Order 2040 and Title 42408, Section A and B.
Well, that's true, too.
And there's also...
You know, so we don't want to give the false confusion or lead on that one. Just jumping and saying.
Hold on a minute, Ed. I'm going to let Michelle speak up here because she has a little insight on this.
Okay.
Ed, don't forget, there are 2 classifications under citizens.
No, there is only one today. There used to be back in 1776, after the 1871 contract with the Vatican, it only went to 1. And that is a structure right now I'm writing on 2 court cases for 2 Native Indians proving it.
Well, let me ask you something. Are you sure that during that time frame that you're saying it went to 1, is there actual verification of that?
Yep, congressional record, and I'm actually writing it.
Okay. So what year was that?
1871. And then that's why the Executive Order 2040 clearly states if you're a national or if you are elected in public or national or citizen, you are an enemy to this country. To the United States, you're an enemy to.
Okay, well, maybe that's where I'm getting the clarification under 2 different types of citizen, or citizenship, I should say then.
Right. Citizen, citizen, original structure of citizen, they combined that, but that was a lawyer's term that was done, and that was actually written in 1779. That was actually written that way, and they did come out and finally clarify that in 1871, and that was done in the Indian treaties that were done, and that's what I'm doing right now, is researching that right now, going through it.
Okay.
Because the Indian treaties came out and clearly stated that and clarified it.
Okay.
So, and then that way, if you're Indian, either you're native or nothing. And a native does not just mean Indian, it means any skin color.
Correct. That's correct. And that's why I was saying there was 2 clarifications, because one has to do with the union and the non-union.
Well, yeah, but that was part of before the 1871 Act, and that was done prior in that structure that was done before Lincoln's War.
Okay. I'll have to go back and look at that information again to see, because I do know I came across 2 different clarifications on it.
No, I'm not arguing you 2 clarifications. I'm just explaining the time it came from.
Yeah.
Because when they clarified it, they were doing that clarification that was before before the Civil War. That was the clarification they were arguing. I believe it was December 21st, 1860.
Well, my comprehension now, from what I can remember, what I had found, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you claimed yourself as a citizen of the United States, that puts you within the jurisdiction of Washington, D.C. If you claimed your citizen as a nation, in other words, you claim yourself as a nation individual, that puts you in the union category, which is outside of Washington, D.C.
No, nation is part of the British government stamp. That's a reverse structure that they clarified with the Indian Treaty, dealing with the Treaty of 1871 with the Indians as well.
All right, I'll have to go back and check.
Putting that in 2 court cases right now that I'll have finished up tonight going out.
Okay. I'll have to go back and
I know what you're referring to.
Because I know that when the Constitution was being written, I'm talking about the original, they were talking about the nation states with the small s. So
they were talking about nationals as state or state citizens. But state citizens became a structure in 1871 because that became part of the treaties the Indians had with the Vatican and the British government after the Civil War. And I know I just have it opened up here. I was reading it somewhere, but
I just wanted to bring that to the listeners' attention that there are 2 definitions, and they better learn the 2 difference between the 2.
Right.
Because that's the same BS crap that they were pulling on the people regarding Obama as him being presidency, and of course there were other people that were running for presidency that didn't qualify. So that's the same crap that they're trying to deceive everybody, thinking, oh no, he had the right to be a president and da-da-da-da-da, that type of stuff.
Well, and also, too, this is another clarification. 42 USC code. Remember, USC codes, they're codes of you commercial industry codes. And 42 USC code 674. It's called payments to the state. And I recommend people do this. This is medical payments, or car payments, anything. How it goes. It even is tribal. Because even tribal from FEMA and stuff is exempt, but people don't read the law. They just do what they're told. I was talking to somebody about that earlier on the phone, how people just jump and talk, or talking to a guy on the street earlier about how people are taught just to do this. He's got a couple kids, and now he wants to learn and make sure his kids doesn't follow certain paths because now he's waking up. But see, if you have structure of national and state, you are giving your rights over to the British government called the Vatican. And the Vatican runs your life through that structure. And that runs your life through any religion, because any religions have to be registered to the Vatican of England. There is no freedom of religion when it comes down to it. Because every religion, when you go to church, pays for it. Go ahead.
You're talking about the corporation status, and that's correct.
Any of it. Doesn't matter. You're part of it, you pay. If you make a donation, you pay.
I know. That's exactly right. Keep it. Also, we should also keep in mind that because of the trickery under 181001, because we had been fooled and we had signed the W-4 forms and we had registered for a voter's registration and our license to our vehicles, that has put you under the corporation status. So therefore, because you had voluntarily put yourself in the corporation...
No, you did not voluntary, because most people didn't know it, so it wasn't voluntary. It was a fraud, a lie. You cannot claim something you are not properly informed, legally or lawfully.
I know
that. It's not voluntary. That is bullshit.
Listen to my words before you...
I know your words. I'm just telling you. Do not voluntarily give up your time.
Excuse me. I started out...
I don't know what happened to Michelle there. Anyhow,
now he muted me.
Go ahead.
Ed, she started to tell you that fraud by trickery under that code section, it null and voids everything
I know that.
Signed.
We all know that, yeah.
They cannot hold you accountable for fraud.
But you have to file it.
No joke.
They can until you file it.
Why was that put on you?
And that is exactly the point we've tried to make on this show. You have to, as an individual, file the criminal complaint.
Mm-hmm.
You have to keep filing it and filing it and filing it and filing it and filing it until they finally get off their dead butts and do something.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we paying these people in public office to protect and serve if the only people they're protecting and serving are the crooks?
And I want to know why I was put on mute on that call. And I was trying to explain something. I'm not going on that phone call no more.
This is ridiculous, what they're doing. People don't comprehend it. They don't understand it. They're uneducated in law, and all they do is whine.
What I was trying to get at was...
That is true.
Voluntarily put yourself in that status under trickery.
That is very true.
Register for a goddamn driver's license.
It's like the other point. When you go into court and you pay fees, that's a tax too. Court fees are taxes.
All a tax, and the government, the Supreme Court's already ruled that government is funded by the Fair Debt Reduction Act, and none of these fees and taxes are necessary. Same with the income tax. It's unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I was trying to say.
I know.
What I was trying to...
In common uses, the term person does not include the sovereign people.
We have to go in there and clarify the paperwork that we signed under false and fraudulent pretense. We have to notify them of the notice of error.
Mm-hmm.
And
that is the
hold
truth.
them accountable, which is what it's going to take. When Congress themselves start getting criminally charged with treason against the Constitution and violation of their oath of office, misprison's a felony, maybe then we'll get somewhere. Because they have a Constitution which is their administrative rules and they refuse to honor it. It's bullshit.
But a corporation is not an American.
That's right.
People cannot claim fraud or corruption.
That is the one thing that people need to figure this one out, is separate yourself.
For victims to...
It's up to you to separate yourself.
Yeah. You got to remember, Ed, you cannot claim that you're a victim of fraud until you comply with that 18-00001.
Well, also, too, forget, what is it, Corpus Delicti 2771?
18 U.S.C. 3771.
Right.
And you are a crime victim.
Mm-hmm.
You've been a crime victim since you were born.
Yeah.
True. When your mommy and daddy signed for you.
That's right.
No, not when they signed.
Roosevelt,
They didn't know they were doing this.
Roosevelt should be guilty of identity theft for every American, bloodline American.
Mm-hmm.
And Congress should go right down with him. Your secretaries of state, the whole 9 yards. You had a part in this, you're guilty of it.
Mm-hmm.
Your birth certificate fraud, your certificate of live birth, all that. They did not have the right to make you a commodity to buy and sell. For the good of the corporation. They're the ones who took away our lawful currency. We didn't need this crap, these bonds, to back the Federal Reserve counterfeiting ring. You stop and think why Roosevelt created the birth certificate bond. What was that, Ed? Oh, that was the backing, our name, good faith and credit for the counterfeit money that they were printing?
Putting our assets and our future assets at stake for them.
That's right.
And that includes your children. That's an asset.
Absolutely. It's not their asset. They weren't there when it was created.
Only man and woman was.
I'm sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of the BS. These birth certificate bonds and all this stuff should be cashed in and given back to the people whose name they're in.
Well, that's true, and that's the other point that I wanted to address, because there are people that have been recently kidnapped and held for hostage, but they're saying that they did everything right doing it to claim the birth certificate bond, but we have the laws, but me and Dave are still figuring this out, because we're not going to put our butt on the line until we've got it down to a master point of House Resolution 192. I don't know if you saw the email I sent you and the information on the people that were recently arrested doing it.
Well, you know, the fact that they wiped out my computer this week, and we're going to get a hold of Microsoft now, tomorrow, and we're going to inform them they got 24 hours to fix my system, or they're going to get sued.
No, just get a new one.
No.
You don't know what they did. You might have to have that for evidence.
For them to be allowed. Oh, I got you. I got what you're talking about. In other words, go ahead and buy a new one and keep that one as evidence of the fact that the hard drive was destroyed.
Yeah, because that's the one thing that they're doing to so many people across the country, and people are not paying attention to that one. I'm glad you brought that one up, too. Because, you know, people get caught up in these things all the time when somebody calls up and says, oh, I have something for you, but I need some personal information before I can send it to you. The biggest one is like those Carnival cruises and stuff. They'll call you up and say, well, we have a discount, but I need all your personal information or a bank account.
Yep. Hold on a minute.
Don't forget to go
And I always find it with people, it's amazing.
Ed.
Go ahead.
Their main Microsoft main headquarters is now out of India.
Right.
What does that tell you? They went over there to avoid taxes.
Not only that,
our dearly beloved Microsoft Corporation
goes
overseas to avoid paying taxes to the United States, where they're making their damn money.
Bank of the West Corporation are out of India as well.
Say that again?
Bank of the West is out of India itself. So you want to make sure that you're looking at the structure of who, what, why, and how.
Gotcha.
So did you guys get any part of the eclipse over your way?
You know what?
The eclipse?
Yes, we saw it all today.
Yeah, I didn't sit out and watch it. I just let it happen. I wasn't going to participate.
Yeah, we took my welder's mask and went outside and shared looking at it was a rainy day here, but we still could see part of it, so.
Now, I guess with the rain that wouldn't hurt, but the welding mask ain't that good for something like that.
They said it was very good for it.
Who did?
The news people had it on TV today, that if you wanted to look at the eclipse, all you need is a welder's shield and you could do it. So
I'm scared. I have one too, but I was been concerned.
Yeah, it worked great. It really did. anyway.
So the other point we got up on our site, and I believe it's probably on the website yet, is a Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. These are what, this is supposed to insure your bank accounts, so that way you have insurance. And so we've got that link up. That's being passed around right now on Facebook. Glad to see that.
To me, Ed, that the FDIC actually pays anything to any bank account because that is insured by we the people.
Mm-hmm.
These assholes don't insure shit.
Well, I know. We pay for it all, technically.
That's right. So why do they say it's FDIC? Federal Deposit and I want to see where they've actually ever paid one dime out for anything.
That's where I was going to get into. Yes, we get that one. We're on the same point of that one.
If you go to the website, it'll give you the...
Because I haven't seen nobody get paid for anything. I have the William Gaston court case, Will and Pam. They won $500 million lawsuit against the state of Oregon, and they still haven't been paid when they raped their child. The state of Oregon makes pornographic movies of children.
Mm-hmm. Did they go?
Elected and public servants too.
Did they go to the clerk of the court after
they
won their case and get their writs of execution?
Well, I don't even know if they're still alive. I was trying to get them to file way back when, and I haven't talked to Will. Probably it's been 5 years.
Well, that's
so I don't know if he's alive. Plus, he had a $13.7 million one against Silverton, Oregon, and he was too scared to go get the money because he was afraid of DHS going after his grandchildren. And I was going to just say, we'll just educate them and put arms in their hands.
Anyone who wins a judgment in money against a corporation or business or whoever, the only way they can get the execute on it is if they get their writ of execution from the clerk of the court.
Right.
But the courts aren't going to tell you that. So if you want a case involving money and you haven't been paid, get your butt down to the clerk's office and get your writ of execution.
Right.
If you don't follow up on it, you're never going to get paid.
That's even your liens.
Exactly.
You know?
How come it's law for them to put a lien on you without it being under penalty of perjury, and yet you, as a private individual, cannot put a lien on them?
Right.
The corporation, who can only sue and be sued.
And that's why you need to file and claim your name. That's your birth certificate.
That's why it's called identity theft under fraud, piratery. You got to prove you gave them money, and then you can file. Then you can file the lien against them.
Right.
So the IRS basically have no jurisdiction in a union state to do jack shit. Period. Any court in the United States, if you are a bloodline American, you are guaranteed a constitutional judge with a constitutional oath of office in a constitutional court.
Mm-hmm.
If you have anything other than that, the court has just committed fraud upon you. You can hold the judge accountable.
Anybody that has paid off...
And that's the one thing that we got to do is we've got on our site to put public notices, and people's cases up. We'll be setting up a thing so eventually when somebody's got a case in there that we need to get autographs and witnesses, we could get that going for not only ourselves but others, because that's going to help us all when we sit there and autograph as witnesses to it. 2 or more is a witness. Isn't that correct, Dave?
That's right. 2 or more is an established witness. Here's the thing, Ed. The criminal courts of today, and the Supreme Court has backed us up on this, every court's crooked in the United States. To have justice, there must be an appearance of justice.
Mm-hmm.
You show me any court case I have ever filed into one of these damn courts where there's ever been an appearance of justice in it. No, if it's too close to the truth, they throw it out under 12b-6, failure to state a claim, and then tell you, you have to be stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And the evidence presented has to be addressed, plus, if you, like me, filed a criminal complaint with your court case, that has to be addressed. You can't just throw it out, 12b-6.
That's a fact.
So I have had never. You tell me, you show me. I demand this. You show me in compliance with the Schultz versus Internal Revenue Service, the First District Court of Appeals in New York City in 2005, no action can be taken against a taxpayer without first taking them to court. You show me where I've ever been criminally charged, arrested, accused, had a trial, been convicted. There is none.
Mm-hmm.
And that's right.
Well, I agree with you there, any of us. And I mean really convicted from an injured party.
That's right. We are the injured party.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to force us to do something which the legislative body of the United States government has already ruled it's 100% voluntary.
That's right.
And Social Security Administration is guilty of embezzling your funds. If they're taking money out of your Social Security check to pay taxes, I'm sorry. That's embezzlement.
Mm-hmm.
So the FBI and U.S. Marshals better get off their dead centers.
You got that one right. That is the one thing that people...
I've already notified Trump about Congress cannot define income. That court case. Wage for labor is an exchange. No income is generated. So how are they taxing your labor?
Mm-hmm.
What they're doing, they're taxing your labor. Wage for labor is an exchange. No income is generated. So any form that your employer gives to the IRS relating to your wage for labor exchange is fraud and inducement. Your employer can be sued.
More than one way. And that's the point. We got to start standing up on this, people. Because if people don't start standing up, there is no future. There is no children. And let me tell you, like I said in the beginning, the Marines are setting up right now to try to defend the country, but you got other military getting ready to go in against them. So, folks, you got to wake up what's really going on. They're talking Civil War III, and I just had a Marine that brought this out on a talk show from a foreign country that he's in right now, brought it up today, because they got them stressed. They got the military across the world, so that way they're not supposed to be able to defend our homes. That's why we're going to have to defend our own homes.
Yeah. That's the reason why they're trying to do away with our right to bear arms. Let me tell you something. Congress, by legislation, cannot alter the Constitution from which they derive their power to legislate. It's already a ruling of the Supreme Court.
That's where we the people,
Mm-hmm.
our senators and our governors, are the state.
And we need, as citizens, to file criminal complaints against our governors and state legislatures of every state, charging them with treason against the Constitution. And remove them from office. And we can't. We, the people, have the right to alter and abolish any law written.
What it says it in the Constitution.
Right.
The Constitution gives you rights, folks. The Bible does not.
If the people on the phone go...
I haven't seen anything in the Bible that gave anyone rights.
If you go to the congressional website, the forms, the complaint forms are there. Print them out, file them.
Now say that again for everybody.
The forms necessary to kick these guys out of office are on the congressional website.
The complaint forms.
The complaint forms. To remove them. All you have to do is go there, print it out, fill it out, file it.
Well, that's what I got to do. That's what I got to find that.
You can do it online.
I'm not telling these people where to go. I'm glad to look themselves.
You know, forms. All right, congressional forms. That's what I'm putting up right now. So I'm looking for the form. As soon as I get the forms up, we'll get that up, folks, to start helping. And that includes on your Social Security. That includes on your DHS workers. Okay? You know, I mean, we're talking the structure of our government. Churches are not our government.
Right.
People always want to go, oh, well, the church and state. No, it is not church and state. Church and state are supposed to be 2,000 miles separated from each other and never have contact, including in the same building.
501c3, 501c4, through 10, name it. Read them. Find out what a 501c whatever is.
Yeah, that's true. Look at why the churches don't pay.
Not for profit. Excuse me. If churches aren't for profit, can you explain to me why the Catholic cult has so many statutes, so many factories, so many all this, that, and the other thing that they're running for profit?
Mm-hmm.
Gone in as, not for profit.
Yeah. Good point, Dave.
How many rental properties does the Catholic Church operate?
Yep.
How many buildings do they lease?
Not only that, they get a tax break.
Plus, they get a tax break. They get to write it off their taxes. They're not paying their corporate tax. Don't be
There is
ridiculous.
no tax for the devil.
Oh, don't bring that up. My goodness, if we bring that up and start pointing out the sins of the corporation, I'm fed up with them.
The sins of the church. Church is a corporation, folks, and then they try to convince you it's not.
The church you go to, ask the pastor, are you a corporation, yes or no?
If they say no, then...
Say that again?
Ask the pastor at the church where you go. Are we a corporation, yes or no?
Good point.
If they say no, then...
Let me see your articles of incorporation. Your what's that other thing they have? No, it's their doctrine. I think at the end of their doctrine, they have to declare whether or not they're incorporated.
They have to declare that they're exempt.
Mm-hmm.
So what's in the church? God forbid we ever find out the truth.
That's why I don't donate.
That's true. And we'll be working on getting these forms up because I know I'll be filling some of these and getting them out.
Oh, they're not going to tell you where to find them.
Well, I know we had them at one point.
Right. That brings up another point at our book. Since we've got
we got to get back on that.
Yes.
Yeah, I still got that one contact number. I'll try to get a hold of her in the morning.
Okay.
You know, because I mean that's the other point. We already had that one set up to go.
Yep. Then all of a sudden, oh, it went under.
Yeah, 160-year-old publishing company goes bankrupt.
I don't think that company went bankrupt. I think they got bought out, paid off, and then declared they were bankrupt. What happened to our manuscript? Why wasn't it ever returned to us?
That's right. That's a big one there.
You betcha.
You know. Oh, and also, too, folks, don't get wrapped up in the AARP bullshit.
Yeah.
Just another gimmick for them to do research on you, to run history checks, because AARP is a government corporation. They're nonprofit. All government agencies are nonprofit. That's why I suggested that you always file a 1099 form. You want to start getting some things accomplished? When you go in and pay a quarter for papers, file a 1099 form. That makes it simple.
Carry a stack of 1099s with you.
Yep. Boy, it's interesting. All of a sudden, the temperature just dropped like 10 degrees, and it was like we lost almost an hour and a half of daylight, because normally it doesn't get dark here for an hour and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, it's 6:30 now. Now it's starting to get. The sun is going over the hill. We're starting to get dark. We're not used to that at this time.
Yeah, it's definitely dark here.
Well, Trump just declared a good thing regarding Afghanistan.
They say Trump just declared a good thing regarding Afghanistan. So catch your evening news.
Yep, we're not going to no longer
hold. What did he do?
We're no longer going to hold Afghanistan's hand.
Really
you come out and said you want your country, defend it.
Oh, so we're finally going to get dropped from Afghanistan?
Sounds like it.
I just can't wait till we drop from Israel.
In other words, we're pulling a lot of...
Telling me, oh, God, I'm sorry, I can't buy into that. I got people all day today going off on me about God, and it's like, prove to me, God, prove there's a God. I can't believe in fantasy. It's like I was saying, the tooth fairy,
Yeah.
Like I was saying, Christmas and all this fantasy we teach each other. And it's all based to buy something. It's all for purchasing power. It has nothing to do with the reality of life. Because doesn't life, you need food, water, light? Food, water, and light. That's what gives us life. The others don't give us life.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, sir. I'm going to have to get off of here because I got my blood pressure up. And that's
okay.
And that's not a good thing considering what I've been through.
No, after getting out of the hospital with a stroke and everything, no. And it would be nice if they actually find out what the heck you actually received.
Well, it would be nice if they found out, one, what caused it. Number two, the fact that they did rule out it was a heart attack. And then number three, what was it? I still have a heart murmur, which was unexplained. And it's massive because the nurse was here today and she goes, holy cow, that thing's huge.
I can hear it.
So even Michelle heard it today. She says, wow.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've got some issues, health issues, and I don't want to blow it, you know what I mean, by getting all upset. I want to live to fight another day.
I got you on that one. We're doing that one. And then once I get this other case, I'll send you. I already talked to you earlier about the other email I sent you. And that's the one thing that gets to me, people. If you ask for help, we don't have an issue helping, but if you're supposed to follow through with something, I don't want to hear wham-wham. You're asking us, me and Dave, to stop our life to do something for you. And when you ask for that, then that means you have to follow through. And if you don't follow through, I'm sorry. And then when you try to come back and, when somebody sits there and says, well, what does it matter if I file against a judge or a attorney or a cop? What the hell are you asking us for help if you're not willing to stand up against them? To me, I look at that as a man or a woman trying to entrap us for the system. If you're not willing to stand up, to me, you're willing to commit fraud for yourself.
You have to remember, Ed, you and I cannot file a case for someone else.
Oh, no, that's true. We cannot. But I'll be damned if we're going to be helping them. We're not following through on their end.
They will throw it out of court.
Oh, no, that's true. And that's the one thing people do not comprehend that. We're not attorneys. We are not lawyers. We're not here to win your case by doing it for you. You have to win your own case by doing it for yourself. We might help.
Read the private attorney general law that was established by Congress during the Kennedy assassination and comprehend what a private attorney general is, that you yourself can be a private attorney general if it is for the benefit of others beside yourself.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So comprehend it and study it. Learn your case, know how to write your case, go to other court cases and read how they were written.
Mm-hmm.
The Styles Manual will give you any subject you want. It will give you court cases to back it up.
And eventually we'll have a lot of those up on our site here eventually.
But every state has their own Styles Manual.
Mm-hmm.
And all you have to do is Google Styles Manual, State of Oregon, Styles Manual, Warsheet, and the Styles Manual, whatever state you're in. It'll come up.
And that's a fact. But like I said, we don't mind helping out, but we're not going to be like, I'm dealing with a couple of cases that I was helping people out, and it's like, then they start telling me, why should they do this? Why should they do that? And it's like, when they start telling me why they should, excuse me, we already had that discussion, and if you didn't want us help, then don't call us.
Mm-hmm.
Because all we do is, what is that, Dave? What do the elected and public servants do?
We're not elected and public servants.
I didn't say that. I said, what do elected and public servants do?
Rape, rob, and pillage.
They wrote it. We, the lawful bloodline Americans, we quote it. That's right. They rape, rob, and pillage, and so we're informing you who's doing it.
Right. So, America, I am out of here for tonight. Unfortunately, I'd love to be on the show, but my blood pressure is going sky high. So,
okay.
I have to say goodnight for tonight. Ed, thanks for having me on. I know it was short notice last week. I apologize to you, but some things I can't help.
Well, I got you on that. We'll talk to you soon, partner, and you get some sleep, and we'll take care of yourself, and we'll talk tomorrow. We'll figure out the best strategy and what we're going to be hitting next Monday. I think we had it in highlight, but we'll get that published tomorrow on what we're going to do tomorrow.
Right. Just remember that everything the Internal Revenue Service does in the United States is unconstitutional.
Absolutely.
Cells were ruled unconstitutional. So.
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Well, good night, everyone, and have a good weekend, or a good week, I should say, and enjoy your week. So, Ed, I'll say good night.
Yeah, I'll yak at you tomorrow sometime.
Okay.
All right. Sleep safe.
Thank you.
All right. Talk to you then. Anyhow, that's the one thing that, bringing up the structure of the system. Remember, we the people are the system. And without we the people, there is no system, but you have to sit there and stand up and fight. It's like in the state of Oregon, we're dealing with, tyranny that's going on with the House and Senate, like all states are. And it's interesting because in a state, they're like every other state. They're starting to steal kids because parents don't have high IQs. Well, it's the parents' fault. Your mother and dad start waking up. It's their fault for screwing you up. Quit lying, cheating, and stealing from yourself, and you have to start admitting. Okay, you have to start admitting the truth to yourself of what's going on. And that is the point that people don't want to admit to the real truth of what's going on. All right? It's your liability. It's your responsibility to teach your kids. And everybody goes, oh, no, it's the states. The state today and as yesteryear is a private corporation only. Has nothing to do with we the people. We the people are supposed to be running our schools. 2002, I recalled the entire school board because they embezzled $30 million of fact. A proven fact. Not only with the embezzlement they had going on, we had a guesstimate of 150, but we were able to prove 30 million with no problem. So when it comes down to public employees and the public servants, they lie. And remember, until the country goes back to the way it was back in the 1960s, elected public servants lie. That's their job, to lie. Their job is to rape, rob, and steal from you. I have not met a public servant, especially in the last 20 years. Well, I can't say there are a few honest ones I have met that are still in the system. But those are far and few between. Okay? And then when we have all this stuff, of these things that... all these terminal things that are going on in the state. In the state of Oregon, they passed an administrative rule. Remember, House and Senate bills are not laws. They are not laws. They're administrative rules only. They are not laws to protect the people. That is the one point. They are not here to protect you. Okay? The police department, and if you look up the police department on the internet, that police are not there to protect you. The Supreme Court says the police department are debt collectors. Debt collectors. Okay? They are debt collectors for the Vatican. They are what they call saints. And believe me, saints ain't saints what you think they are. Read the Bible, the devil's book. I call it that. I don't hide from it. And everybody gets upset at me for speaking the way I speak about the book. Well, it's a book. Man is not supposed to rape, rob, and pillage from one another. And that book gives men a right and women a right to do that because they go, oh, I can go get forgiveness from the Bible. I can go pay the church to forgive me. I can buy my way into heaven. Okay, I mean, it's like what the moronic points of view are going on here, people. Seriously. This is the point that people have got to wake up. What is really going on? Because if we don't start getting this stuff really happening, okay, we're talking you have no rights to do anything in life but to be in a FEMA camp. And that is the truth. I just don't comprehend when people start doing this stuff. Not paying attention to what's going on. In the state of Oregon, I'm dealing with people that argue with me about the Bible instead of want to sit there and protect their children. So it proves to me that people don't love their children. Okay, you can say you love your children all you want, but prove it. That means stand up. Oh, that's right. And then the other point is if I don't put a chip in my body, I'm not going to have a job. Because jobs are saying that if you don't get a chip in your body, then you're not eligible for employment. Come on, folks. You talk about the Bible and all this stuff. Now, there's the Bible. There's your chip. There's the devil right there. And you're accepting it? That's what stuns me with people. You accept the devil, you claim all this, and then you want to sit there and go do get other people riled up to go protect you, or to get people riled up to, it's like that false deal in, what was that, the guy that just ran over people. And actually they came out with the police chief said that they were told not to interfere. That's like when, what was that, Twin Towers, when that fell. They knew about those, they weren't jets. Let me tell you, there was no wings. If a jet would have really hit those buildings, you would have had wings and engines. You would have had parts, seats. That's like the one that was a Pentagon. There was no tail to a plane. There was no structure for a plane there at all. And it's like your taxes, the same thing. That's like that Muslim guy comes out and says, oh, my kid died in the military. What is his name? Khizr Khan came out and said, my kid died for this country. His kid was a Muslim. He didn't die for this country. And if you actually listen to some of the people that were bringing it up back then, he went after people in his own platoon. So, it's like, do the research. If you don't do the research, how do you know the truth? That is the frustration. People don't know the truth. That's like the government keeps writing and changing. There was at one point where citizens were considered a citizen, but that goes back to 1775. But remember, citizen was the term that the British used, the British government used. That citizen terminology started in the 12th century in England. So either you're a citizen or you're an American. There's only two things. Either you're lawful or legal. Constitution is law. Citizen is legal. So either you know the legal or lawful, and you have to educate your kids on this. And I realize that some parents, and I get hard sometimes the way I speak, but we don't know this. Now, some parents are learning this, and their kids might be 20, and they're learning it now, and it's very difficult trying to get your kid to comprehend what you're trying to say, that, hey, maybe I made a mistake in certain things I did. Maybe I made a mistake in some of my decisions, but, I know you have kids. Can I give you some thoughts? And do not use the word advice, because if you use the word advice, now you're sitting there telling them that you are better than their thoughts and you didn't make an error. It is the way we talk to ourselves or talk to our children, I mean. Don't know where that one came from. But it's the way we talk to our children and our bloodline. The whole thing is like, one thing about Native Americans. The heritage has been so talked out of them over the last century and a half, literally. The white man comes in, and that's including Spaniards and all the other races, as you call it, because race is religion, okay? But everybody goes in and starts dictating to somebody how they're going to live. But people don't have a right to tell somebody how to live. That's the other point. People don't have a right to tell somebody how to live. I don't have a right to tell you how to live, so if you're a woman, if you're pregnant, I can't tell you to have an abortion or not. And all these people say, oh, a woman shouldn't have an abortion. It's her body. Do you want a constitutional right for your Bible? If you don't have a constitutional right for your Bible, she doesn't have a constitutional right for her body. It's equal. It's not whatever fits whatever one wants to assume, whatever one wants to fit for their own personal gain. Most people who speak against abortions is for their personal gain. Because if you ever look at what does the Bible says? God shall judge. Where does it give you the right to judge another man or woman? It doesn't. If there's no personal property damage, they did not harm you, they did not cross over your path, you have no right to say anything. Okay? That's like, Black Lives Matters and all these other ones that are going on today. We don't have a right to interfere in somebody else's structure. That is the one thing, we don't have a right to sit there and do that. But that's the point, that we have to be respectful of one another when one is getting proper education It is getting those educational points to one another. You know, I mean, that's the one thing. And it comes down to proper education and proper words. You know, and that's the one thing that Dave and I have been reading through, coming up and learning what the proper words are, because our English has been changed so much. And then in the 1980s started the very dumbed down of the country here. Prior to the 1980s, people used to have, intelligence. And that was the one thing a lot of people did have, intelligence. You know, and now today we've been so dumbed down by the system, it is scary and amazing. We have been literally dumbed down. And that is the one thing that, you know, we are still living, you know, with a dumbed down society. And we really are. We really are. Because the society started dumbing down, and that started really coming in the 1980s. Because in the school systems, they couldn't have one kid smarter than the other, so they had to dumb people down for personal and financial gain. And that's what we're living today. We are living this. So, but anyhow, Dave's taking off for himself. I think I'm gonna wrap it up. It's almost 7 o'clock tonight. The temperature is just dropping ridiculously here where I'm at on the coast here. I'm just sort of interesting to see what's going to happen after today, because the temperature has just dropped down another 5 or 6 degrees, which is very interesting to me. So I think I'm going to wrap this up this evening. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us, and may the Great Spirit bless with you, Mother Earth feed you and clothe you, and take care of you, and may the Creator bless your bloodline. Remember, it's up to you to protect your bloodline. It's up to you to do this stuff. It is not up to anybody else to do it. You know, if you don't protect your bloodline, nobody else is going to do it for you. Maybe if we start standing together again in this country, and people are starting to be respectful and start doing this stuff, standing right to one another, we can start doing this stuff. That's the whole point. Once we start putting out the right affidavits, starting to make sure our public employees are indicted for treason, racketeering, fraud, and extortion, for personal and financial gain. Once we start doing that, we can start turning this country around. We have to, excuse me, we have to turn the country around in the courts. That's the one thing that we have to do, is turn it into the courts. And it is interesting, because the one thing as I can suggest or let you folks know, that so far 5 police departments have literally, this year, walked off the job, resigned their posts in the cities, have admitted they will not rape, rob, and pillage not only their citizens, but their own family. Or I don't like using the devil word citizen, because citizen is a British terminology. It's not American. Okay? I mean, that citizen word was something that they brought up years ago. But like I said, citizen was a terminology that came from England. Terminology in the 48 United States is lawful bloodline, American, or lawful bloodline. We are not citizen. Look up the term citizen. Citizen or national means that you are belonging to an individual group of a foreign corporation. Exactly what it states. I'm quoting that in 2 court cases right now. I'm writing for a couple of people, and I'm quoting it right in the court case, because I've actually got the court case and the congressional records that actually state it. And one of the congressional records was even done recently in the last 10 years. So, I mean, and that's the whole point, is knowing what the words mean. We have been so brain twisted on some of our words that most people don't even know what the truth is. We don't know how to speak the truth, and that is the one thing. Don't use the word citizen. If a cop pulls you over, you are not a citizen. You are not a national. I'm a bloodline American. I'm a bloodline. And he goes, well, what's a bloodline? Well, don't you have bloodline children yourself? And leave it at that. Don't get into any further conversation. And the other point is, like Dave will say too, as I do, what Dave has said, and he's been in those positions, when you get pulled over by a red light, remember, when you're pulled over by red lights, okay, it has to be a factual emergency. Otherwise, they're road pirates and going after for personal financial gain on you. And that's what they're doing when it really comes down to it. Remember, these people do not care for you. They don't care for their own children. That's a fact. That's been proven. That has been truly proven. You know, when a kid turns 18 and it works for the government, most of them just throw them out on the street and says, hey, you're on your own. They got that from England because native men and women didn't throw their children out. Native, you know, you ended up with a TP. You didn't go that far from mom and dad. You knew how to fend for yourself. You knew how to go out and get a deer and elk. You know, feed your bloodline. Take care of structures. And that's the thing that we need to do today, you know. Those are the things that we have to do today. Because if we don't protect the bloodline, your bloodline, if you don't protect your bloodline, who else do you expect to protect your bloodline? The school system will not do that for you. That's a fact. Because right now, if you go to school, kids go to school, which gets to me, is that kids will go to school today and the schools will turn their kids over, you know, turn the kids over to the state. They don't care. And remember, teachers get paid to do it. That's a fact. You know, you don't think that people and teachers and these people get paid. They sure get paid. They get paid to commit treason. This is a real fact. You know, they get paid to do these things, just like police departments get paid. You know, they get paid. Remember, the root of all evil is money. Okay? And the other point is, everybody keeps going, oh, church and religion. Well, how come you're not growing food in the churches? How come the churches ain't growing food? You know, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, a lot of churches used to actually grow food on the church land and provide for their congregation. It was known through that all the way through the 1940s, even back, because most churches did that. You know, kids were grown up and educated in raising food and knowing how to plant and do that stuff. They were actually growing up and they knew this. Today, kids don't know how to plant anything. They don't know how to raise food. They don't have a concept of what food really is unless it's a can or going to a grocery store. They have no idea what it's like to go in the woods, and our woods have changed so much in the last 200 years because of logging, illegally and legally. Remember, legally is British law, okay? Constitution is federal law. And the federal government is the British government. There is no separation of church and state when it comes to the British government, because under the British government, the Vatican runs the government. This is all true, factual, and nobody can dispute it because that's the Treaty of 1213 that the Vatican keeps trying to put on people. And if you haven't read the Treaty of 1213, I do request that you do read the Treaty of 1213 so this way you do see what the truth is. You know, so anyhow, this is a given name Ed. We would like to say we're not attorneys, we are not lawyers. We'd like to thank you for your time in joining us. And may the Great Spirit and Mother Earth walk with you, bless you, and may the Creator make sure that you are safe. And I'll end with that tonight.
Well, I remember a teacher that I had. Now, I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher. Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell. He says, he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester, and it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may, may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity. Allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United, that means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose. And that's love for country. And to the Republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people. And it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance: under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer and that would be eliminated from schools too?
Listening to the disclaimers by Davidlee Buess and Edward Johnston. It is Monday, the 21st of August, 2017, and it is 7:02 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you very much for joining us.